Let me tell you about my first ever CrossFit competition that I ever did, and then we'll get to the workout. First ever CrossFit competition I ever did was in 2009 or 2010, somewhere around there. There was a field with about 40 athletes, 40 men. There was 3 workouts and then a final. The 3 workouts were just kind of like work capacity style workouts, and then you made the final. We didn't have Competition Corner back then where you could check the online leaderboard, so there was just some Excel spreadsheet someone was doing in the background. Went out onto the microphone and said, "Greg Wilson, you have made the final." And there was top 10. So they went from a field of 40 to a field of 10. I made the final. I was like, I am the big dog. I've only been doing CrossFit for about 2 or 3 months. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm actually really good at this. Very new to CrossFit, very new to like barbell style movements. The final, top 10 athletes, they had a movement, and then they pulled someone out, and then the top 9 progressed. They had a movement, the top 8 would progress from there. And so I'm like, okay, elimination style. So they had 10 barbells out, they had 10 medicine balls out, and you had to do 30 overhead squats with a 50 kilo barbell for time. The 9 fastest athletes will reset and move on to the next section. The ball was there just to squat all the way down to the ball. So your bum had to touch the ball. That's how we had our standard back in the day. So your bum had to touch the ball to show that you're going all the way down. I don't recall ever doing any overhead squats before I saw what it looked like. And I'm like, oh, yeah, sweet. I got that. I'm a visual learner. I'll pick this up pretty quickly. Do 30 really fast. 3, 2, 1, go. Ended up picking up the barbell, popped it over my head. Didn't really feel like my arms were locked out, but I'm like, oh, that's okay. I'm pretty strong in my upper body. Squat all the way down. The bar goes flying forwards. I go flying backwards in opposite directions. The bar almost knocks out the person that was in front of me. There was a little bit of laughter in the crowd. I'm like, all right, that was dumb. Let me just reset and try that again. Picked up the barbell, squatted down very slowly, couldn't get back up. The bar goes forwards, I go backwards. This continued for about 2 minutes. I may or may not have gotten like a couple of reps out in the time that it took the 9 athletes to complete their 30 overhead squats. When the 9th person completed their overhead squat, time was called. I was then asked to leave the stadium. I may have done a couple of reps, I'm not sure, but definitely no more than 5. So I had to exit the field. He gets on the microphone, "Greg Wilson, please exit the field." I'm like, oh, okay, good. Ended up, walking out. It was probably the most embarrassing and humiliating time of my entire adult life. I remember thinking to myself, that was the most fucking stupidest event I've ever seen or done. And I'm thinking about just cutting away this CrossFit thing because it's kind of stupid. And I was just always calling that event stupid. And I was just like putting blame on that event and that movement in particular because I wasn't good at it. I was in the mindset of like, this is dumb. I'm just probably going to do another sport. Like CrossFit's stupid. And if it wasn't for the people around me, my coach at the time and my friends that were in the gym that I was a part of at the time, then I would have just left. They basically encouraged me to continue and to use that piece of adversity to my advantage and not as a hindrance. That was my kind of like realization of what hard work is supposed to look like, and that you can actually use adversity to your advantage. I ended up sticking with it. I ended up continuing to work on the overhead squat. By all means, I'm not like the best at overhead squatting still. It's still a bit of a weakness, but definitely not as much as it was back then. Fast forward over a decade, and I entered the Torium Pro for the 40 to 44-year-old division. Pretty stacked field. There's some really good athletes there. And event 1 was 20 overhead squats with a 70-kilo barbell. And if it wasn't for the decade of not wanting to embarrass myself again, I wouldn't have been able to do this event. I ended up proceeding to do 20 reps at 70 kilos unbroken. And then I had to do another 20 reps at the back end of that workout. So there was 40 in total with 70 kilos on the bar. So that's 20 kilos more than over a decade ago. Safe to say, it's still what I feel like a weakness of mine, but I ended up winning that competition, and it just felt like a little bit of closure to me, knowing that I had to get through that movement in order to do well at the whole competition. So if you're ever going through any type of adversity, whether it's overhead squats or mobility, whether it's pre-existing conditions or pre-existing injuries, maybe it's you've just got crap grip strength, maybe your legs feel really weak, maybe you just can't do gymnastics, I just encourage you to use that adversity to get better. I encourage you to do a little fun in-house or local of competition and just put yourself out there. And that day that I embarrassed myself was the most important day and an important time in my whole CrossFit life. If it wasn't for that one moment where I fell over multiple times and I could hear laughter in the crowd, if it wasn't for that moment, then maybe I wouldn't have gone down the path that I did. Every time I do something that's really hard, I think about that moment and I think about how I don't ever want to embarrass myself ever again. So the workout for today, coincidentally, has overhead squats in it. Last week or the week before, we did some overhead squats with a relatively light barbell, about 35 for men, 25 for ladies. Now we're bumping it up to 42.5 for men, 30 for ladies. So it's starting to creep up to like that Fran weight. It's a good weight to be able to move. And I'm not asking you to embarrass yourself today and fall over multiple times and for people to laugh at you. That would not be what I'm asking for today. But I am asking for you to give it a go, give it a try, pick a weight that you can at least do 5 reps at a time and challenge yourself a little bit, but by all means scale the movement down to a front squat if you can't overhead squat for any reason. So the workout is a cool chipper. We've got 3 legless rope climbs for men, 2 legless rope climbs for women. And then we're going to row 600 meters. We're then going to do our 30 overhead squats with 42.5 kilos for men, 30 kilos for ladies. We're then going to run 600 meters. You're then going to do 30 double dumbbell suitcase lunges. You're then going to do 60 push-ups, 30 box jumps, and 60 kettlebell swings. It's going to be a really, really fun workout. And these chippers are always awesome. Just know in the back of your brain, you just have to do that movement one time, get through it, and then you don't need to touch that movement again for the rest of the workout. A few more details of the workout will be, talked about at the brief in the class. But for now, challenge yourself, get out of your comfort zone a little bit, and try to use adversity to your advantage.
Perfect.